Hello my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. For today's video we're going to crochet the Lacy Autumn Cowl. And although I've chosen autumn or fall colors, you can stitch this up in any colors that you like, whatever matches your winter coat or maybe spring or fall hoodie. It's a very lacy stitch. It's a 2-row repeat. You can make this as long as you want for a really long cowl or a short cowl, or even leave the ends unattached and make a scarf. It's a very easy way to use up maybe one cake or skein of yarn that you just don't know what to do with, and you can make something beautiful with it. Stripes, variegated, solids. It's just a really great pattern for any colorway. Now you can find this free crochet pattern on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video in that description box. So the yarn I used is called Autumn Stripe. It's an I Love This yarn from Hobby Lobby striping yarn. Because it is a variegated type striping yarn, I didn't want to do the demo in this color. So I'm just using this kind of a, let's see, it's called Burnt Pumpkin. It's kind of a light rust. You can use any medium weight number 4 yarn that you have on hand. It only takes about 2 to 3 ounces depending on how long you want to make your scarf. And this particular skein has 7 ounces. So you could make 2 with just one skein of this particular yarn. And again, any colorway, striping, variegated. You got a variegated skein of yarn you don't know what to do with? Make one of these. I bet it will turn out really pretty. Alright, so we're going to stitch with our eye hook today, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. And then you'll just need a needle for weaving in ends and a pair of scissors. We're going to begin with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 28 chains. I've stitched 28 chains. I'm going to begin by stitching a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. And now we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of those chains, working all the way across our row of chains. One double crochet in each of our chains across. I started in the 2nd chain from the hook, and we count this chain 3 as our first double crochet, and so you'll have 26 double crochets. We're going to chain 3 and turn our work. The chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. Now we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. So you'll have 2 double crochets there because, again, that chain 3 counts as your first, and then we double crocheted in the next. Now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll stitch a single crochet in the next 2 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Single crochet in the next 2. 1, 2. We're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip the next 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and stitch a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to skip the next 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and stitch a single crochet in the next 2 double crochet stitches. Now we'll chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll skip the next 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that leaves 2 double crochets at the end, and we're going to stitch a double crochet in those last 2 stitches. And chain 1. Alright, so let's look at what we did for row 2. Our chain 3 counted as our first, and so we double crocheted in the next, chain 5, skip 4, 1 single crochet in the next 2, chain 5, skip 4, double crochet in the next 2, chain 5, skip 4, single crochet in the next 2, chain 5, skip 4, and double crochet in the last 2, and chain 1. Alright, for row 3, we've chained 1. Chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and we're going to single crochet in those first 2 double crochets. We're going to chain 5, and this brings us over to those 2 single crochets, and in those 2 single crochets we're going to stitch a double crochet. Now we're going to chain 5. We're going to skip over to these 2 double crochets and stitch a single crochet in those 2 double crochets. And chain 5. There we go. Now we'll skip over to these 2 single crochets and skip a double crochet in each of those. 1 and 2. There we go. Chain 5. And this brings us to our last 2 double crochets, and we're going to stitch a single crochet in those 2 double crochets. And now we're going to chain 3. Alright, so let's look at our row 3. Basically, we did the same thing, only we did the opposite stitches. So we started with 2 single crochets, we chained 5, we stitched a double crochet in the 2 single crochets, chained 5, single in the 2 double, chain 5, double in the 2 singles, chain 5, and then ended with a single crochet in each of those 2 doubles and chained 3. And see how that lays? It's an interesting look, kind of has a subtle wave to it. Row 4 is basically what we did on row 2. We chained 3, we're going to turn, we're going to double crochet in that next single crochet, we're going to chain 5, we're going to skip over that chain 5, and in these 2 double crochets we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each. Chain 5, skip over the chain, brings us to our 2 singles, and stitch a double crochet in each of those 2 single crochets. Chain 5, skip over that chain, come over to the 2 double crochets, and stitch a single in those 2 doubles. Chain 5, brings us to our last 2 stitches, which were singles, so we're going to stitch a double in those last 2 stitches. And chain 1. Isn't that just pretty how that looks? 2 doubles, chain 5, 2 singles, chain 5, 2 doubles, chain 5, 2 singles, chain 5, and end on 2 doubles for row 4. Now remember, we only chained 1 here because our next row we're going to start with single crochets. So now for row 5, we're just going to repeat what we did on row 3. So we chained 1, we're going to turn our work, we're going to single crochet in these 2 double crochets, and chain 5. So we'll skip over those chains, go to our 2 single crochets, and stitch 1 double crochet in each of those 2 single crochets, and chain 5. Skip over to our 2 double crochets and stitch a single in each of those 2 doubles, and chain 5. Skip over to our singles and stitch a double in the 2 singles. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip over to those 2 double crochets and stitch a single in each of those 2 double crochets, and chain 3. All right, let's go ahead and do row 6. We've chained 3, counts as our first double crochet, so we'll double crochet in that first single. Again, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip over to the doubles and stitch a single in each of those 2 doubles. Chain 5. Skip over to the 2 singles and stitch a double in each of those 2 singles. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip over to the 2 doubles and stitch a single in each of those 2 doubles. Chain 5. That brings us to those last 2 singles, and we'll stitch a double crochet in those 2 singles, and chain 1. And so I think you've got the repeats down now. Each row you're chaining 5 in between. You're starting with 2 double crochets, chain 5, then do 2 single crochets, and then you'll do the opposite across. And then your next row you start with 2 singles, and you put your double crochets in your singles in your double crochets, and it works out really pretty. So basically it's a 2-row repeat. One row you start with your 2 double crochets, and one row you start with your 2 singles. And you always stitch your singles in your doubles and your doubles in your singles. And it makes just a lovely open and lacy cowl or scarf. And so now you're going to continue to repeat the row 3 and row 4, which we did on row 5 and row 6, alternating the 2 rows for 112 more rows, more or less, depending on how long you want your cowl to be. If you want it to be approximately 40 inches long, you're going to need to repeat row 5 and row 6 for 112 rows, alternating every other row. That's going to get you about a 40-inch long cowl. Again, if you want it longer, do more rows. If you want it shorter, do less rows. But that's going to get you the length that you need for the scarf that I am making. So repeat row 5 and row 6, alternating every other row for 112 more rows. So once you have repeated row 5 and row 6 for as many rows as you need for the size you're making. And this is the one that I'm making. It doesn't matter if you end on a row 5 or a row 6. It doesn't. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a solid row of double crochet across the end. That way, if you're doing it as a scarf, you can do that row and you'll be done. And then I'm going to show you how to put the two ends together to make a cowl. So here's the end of my scarf. If you ended with 2 single crochets, or if you ended with 2 double crochets, this last row you're going to do a chain 3, because we're going to do a solid row of double crochets. All right, now what we're going to do is we'll double crochet in whatever stitch is next, whether it's a double crochet or a single. And that brings us to that chain 5, and we're going to stitch 4 double crochets around that chain 5. Let me bring this down farther. There we go. And we just go around that chain. We don't stitch into it. All right, so we stitched 4 double crochets around that chain 5. Your next 2 stitches, whether they're double crochets or singles, you're going to stitch a double crochet in those 2 stitches. And then we'll just repeat this across. 4 double crochets in the chain 5 space or around that chain 5. So there's my 4 double crochets, and then 2 double crochets in the next 2 stitches. Whether they're singles or doubles, it doesn't matter. All right, chain 5, I'm stitching 4 double crochets. One double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. 4 double crochets around that chain 5. There, oh, there we go. And then 1 double crochet in those last 2 stitches. Yeah, back in there. There we go. And I'm just going to chain 1. And that gives us a nice solid row of double crochet on this end, like we have on this end. So if you're making this as a scarf, all you need to do is tie off and weave in your end. So if you want to connect the ends for a cowl, we're going to take it and turn it this way and put the 2 ends together. Now you can put a twist in it if you want to make it a Mobius, where you twist the end and it has a twist in it. I'm not going to this time. I'm just going to lay it flat and make a nice circle. All right, let's get this yarn out of the way. And so what we'll do is we'll go in the first stitch on this end and the first stitch on this end. We'll grab that loop and pull it through. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch them together. All right, so we'll go in and just pull that loop through the loop on my hook. And this is on the inside of my cowl. So I'm stitching the 2 ends together with slip stitches. Now, if you prefer to use a single crochet, you can. I just like the slip stitch for this. And I want to show you what it looks like on the inside. Those 2 sides will meet up nicely and it will look really pretty with those slip stitches. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, because remember, this is the inside, and when I flipped it over and showed you, this is the outside of our cowl. And the truth is, it doesn't matter which side is the inside or outside. You can do it however you want and which side you prefer. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue to stitch across, stitching slip stitches. And remember to stitch these just a little bit loose, because you don't want that to be puckered up and tight. You want it to be nice and loose and lay pretty. All righty. So I'll just continue this across. So I'll have a nice, beautiful cowl. So here's the front side. I've stitched it all together. Cut my yarn and just tie that off. I grab my needle. And we'll just weave this in. I like to go back through some of this. That way I know it's going to hold nice. There we go. Because I don't want my cowl coming undone right in the middle of a date with my hubby. Alrighty, so we'll clip that. And now my cowl is all ready to add to my fall wardrobe. And again, you don't have to make this in a fall color. And you don't have to make it in a striping or variegated. You can use solids, you can use any of your cake yarns, any of your variegateds, whatever you have on hand, as long as it's a medium weight, number 4 yarn. I love it. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful stitch that's super easy. It's a great take-along project also.